Hey everyone, today I'm going to go over some new and exciting news that we have for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC via Steam, what PlayStation, Xbox, and PC Windows players should be able to get their hands on this content pretty much around early April. And today we're going to be checking out the third and the last comparison videos where we're going to be checking out Risen Teostra's new wave of attacks if you happen to be fighting the Anomaly Investigation version level of him of 211 plus. And for those who haven't necessarily been keeping up, if you are basically doing the new trio of Risen Elder Dragons that are part of Anomaly Investigation quests, and you are doing the level 130 to 210 version of these monsters, they're pretty much going to act like no different than any sort of normal Risen versions of themselves through a normal quest. However, everything will begin to change once you put the little bit of a time to be able to get through the grind and get to post level 211. You're going to notice that their icons will change a little bit. They have a new look to the icons, and therefore this means you're fighting a unique version of these Risen Elder Dragons, and Teostra, Kushala Daora, and Chameleos all have them. Therefore, they have a brand new wave of attacks. These are hazard level type of difficulty quests. They're in the same level of that like Lucid Nargacuga quest that I put up a video a couple of weeks back, where that Lucid Nargacuga that you take down after you take down Volcana has a brand new moveset available to it. And these Risen Elder Dragons are no different. I put up a video for Kushala Daora and Chameleos already, and today we're going to be checking out Teostra. Before I do though, huge shout out to Shinkrai and the Spanish Monster Hunter Spain Twitter account for putting all of this information together. Link in the description below to both of their Twitter channels. Huge shout out to them once again for doing a lot of the legwork. So pretty much when it comes to Teostra's attack, you're going to notice on the upper left side, this is just a normal Risen Teostra version of the attacks, level either 130 to 210 or just a normal quest version of them. But on the bottom right, you're going to see the icon is different, and therefore that is the new 211 plus version of them. In the very first clip, we do get to see very quickly that Teostra does this kind of like swipe set of attacks, and on the upper left side, he just kind of does this normal attack, his swipes. But on the bottom right side, he does a dual swipe attack, and there's fire following his like kind of like slaps from his paws. So there is a little bit of a threat there that is a little bit different as well. In the following clip, you're also going to notice that he kind of does that with the other paw as well. So he can kind of reverse these attacks. He does them with both different paws, starting with right or the left. It doesn't matter. And if he starts it from the left side, it's going to be doing the same thing. Follows it up with a fire attack subsequently right after. Another one of his new attacks is pretty much when he kind of just bellows in a lot of like fire breath, a lot of that sparkly fiery goodness. You do get to see that powder, explosive powder that he does. Normally he kind of like inhales in and then does a blast outward, but this new version of him, this new version of his attack is actually doing a V version of that blast. So it's not going to be going directly forward in like outside if you're like facing him, but it's actually going to do a little bit of a directional thing where it's going a little bit varying to the left, a little bit varying to the right, and instantly he follows that up with a kind of like direct forward launch approach. So even if you think you're avoiding it by kind of standing in front of him, since the fire is not going to hit you, he follows that up with a like direct forward thrust kind of attack. He thrusts himself forward, and therefore that is like the attack going forward. If you get caught in the side, most people would avoid it to the side. You'll get caught by the fire. But if you stay in the middle, he's gonna pretty much thrust himself forward and pretty much get you there. Now, another one of his new attacks is the fact that when he kind of does that big circly type of explosion in front of it, typically what he does is just kind of like summons in all that fire. He does a massive explosion, and then that's just pretty much it. But this time around, this new powerful version of him, not only does he kind of like conjure up the fire a little bit faster, the kind of like charge up time is a little bit less, but then he subsequently follows that up with a second explosion as well. So you're going to have to not only either back out completely or wait for him to just kind of like do the second one. So if you're blocking, you know, you can certainly avoid it with enough time to spare. Another one of the new attacks you're also going to notice is that he does kind of like a little bit of a fire downward attack, not necessarily seemingly too dangerous, and his first attack is very directionally just facing him forward. But the new version of him, not only is the AoE way more outward, the fire is kind of spreading a little bit like to an outer range, if you will. But then he also is going to subsequently kind of follow that up in the same version of that V attack. He'll pounce forward as well. So one of the things I've spoken regarding Kushala Daora and Chameleos and different attacks is that there's a lot of adjustments done by these monsters, new versions of them. Therefore, you're going to notice that this one just kind of like adjusts a little bit and then pounces and thrusts themselves forward as well. Now, there are two other different attacks that are a little bit different as well. His biggest massive explosion is actually the AoE range is actually 1.5. This is something that a lot of people kind of reported on afterwards in the comments. I don't actually have a clip of that. I didn't get to pick up on that. But also another one of his attacks that he does, he kind of has a direct fly up in the air, throws a firebomb kind of like directly below. Originally, normally he does that just one firebomb. This time around, he does two direct firebombs downward into you. If you are not necessarily paying too much attention, if you avoid the first one, chances are the second one is the one that is going to get you. And in reality, the reason why I left Teostra to the very end of this trio of Risen Elder Dragons, kind of like a combination attacks and like comparisons of their attacks, is because he's the one who has the least amount of attacks changed. The other two, Kushala Daora being the first one and Chameleos being second, they have multiple different iterations of their attacks, where Teostra has the least amount of them. He was already probably the more dangerous of all the Elder Dragons. I do argue that Kushala Daora hits the hardest out of just the normal versions of them, not the Risen versions of them. But Risen Teostra pretty much was already a pretty dangerous one, probably more dangerous than just normal Risen Kushala Daora and Risen Chameleos. But now this booster version of him, I think, is probably the weakest one, since Chameleos, with all that poison that he stacks up, multiple waves of poison, if you're not, preemptively kind of like avoiding that, you're going to get caught up in that. And Kushala Daora's 211, let's say, hazard version of himself is certainly the most dangerous one, because those tornadoes that he puts out and those like explosive wind blasts that he does are extremely dangerous. So therefore, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to these new versions of the new iterations of these monsters, version of Teostra is probably the weakest one of all of them, with the least amount of changes that we have seen so far. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. Once again, huge shout out to the Spanish Monster Hunter fan Twitter account, link in the description below, and Shinkrai as well for putting together all these clips. Huge shout out to them. Links in the description below. But if you happen to be brand new to my channel and you enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.